Welcome to the Progression Health Podcast. I'm here with Joyce. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Perfect, Ross. Firstly, Ross, thanks for having me. So my name's Chris Joyce. I was about to say 30, but I'm not 30 yet, even though I kind of feel like I'm 30 today. But I am 29 years of age from Galway. I'm in recovery from addiction from alcohol and gambling. I am regarding health and the gym and stuff. I suppose briefly, I wasn't always into the gym. I was quite overweight up until about maybe 20. What am I now? I'm 4.5 years sober. So about 5 years ago, I suppose I probably would have been at my heaviest, which would have brought me to about 24 years of age. I would have been about 120 kilos, like in and around. When I went to treatment, I went to the Rutland Centre in Dublin in 2018, and I was about 130 kilos. And I remember that because I was just always sweating and always nervous and always anxious and everything. Anything else I need? I don't think avid Galway football supporter, if that to anyone listening, if that makes any contribution to it.
Very important piece of info, the Galway football. You have to have the passions in recovery. So just bring it back to the start. So how did you get your start in Ireland? I think I kind of feel like we're all just, drinking from a young age, but, how did you get your start in drinking and the gambling? When did that start?
I think I never drank, actually. I only drank, I think I started maybe my first drink maybe when I was 17 or 18. So I didn't start overly young. But the minute I drank, I was like, I love it. Like, it gave me that confidence. You know me from for a good few years, and like I would have struggled with confidence for a long time, and drink just gave me that invisibility or unstoppable whatever. I'll talk to anyone. I'll do anything. I'll come up with any excuse to go on a night out, because if it wasn't Bob's birthday, it was Billy's birthday. If it wasn't Billy's birthday, it was John's birthday. Like that just gave me that confidence. And with me, my gambling and my drinking always went hand in hand. So if I gambled, I drank, and if I drank, I gambled. So, that's why if I think, I don't think of it very often, but like when I was in early sobriety, it was like, I'm not the worst at gambling, not the worst at drinking. Or I was almost like planning the next time I would drink. And then I was like, but if I drink, I'm going to end up gambling again. And if I gamble, I'll end up drinking again. So that's why I just kind of just clean slate, just threw in, as someone said to me before I went into treatment, was throw in the white towel and just leave everything out there.
Yeah, what a change it's made. So what do you think of the drinking in Ireland? And, I guess it's kind of in general, not just Ireland, not to pin it on Ireland, but like Ireland's relationship with drink and like, do you see many people who are like moderate drinkers who have a good handle of it? Because, like you said yourself, you're like, oh, you weren't the worst. And I would have thought, when I was back in Ireland, there's always people who are worse, right? You can always say that. But what's your opinion on, Ireland's relationship with drink?
I suppose when I was drinking, it was always like you could almost always find someone to go out drinking with. Like not everyone I know, a lot of my close friends can have a drink and they can go out and have a pint and they can go home again. But like the culture in Ireland, you know what it's like, Ross. It's all in or nothing. But that's the way I am with everything. It's like, it was like that with drinking, gambling. I can't just have one bet or I can't have one drink. I have to like literally go head first into this. It was like when I started on my fitness journey, it was like, I'm going to go head first and just eat chicken, rice, broccoli and soy sauce for 2 months and lose loads of weight and then pile it all back on again. But with regards to drinking culture, it's just like, I don't go out that often, Ross. Well, for example, I have a staff night out on Friday and a bit of a reunion on Saturday, and that's like once in a blue moon I'll go because I just don't have any interest in it. But I always ask myself, with regards to a night out. If someone asks me going for a night out is, am I going for myself? Do I want to go, or am I going to please someone else? And if I can tell my, if I can see that I'm only going to just for someone else's benefit, then I won't go because like I'm not going to enjoy it. There's no point lying about it. But like I once maybe in every 2, 3 months I might go out. Maybe the odd time I might. There's a like again this weekend coming is just like that's once in. I don't think I've ever gone be have to go to two events. Don't have to go to two events. I'm deciding to go to two events 2 days in a row. But the drinking culture in Ireland, you know, Galway is just like like it's so then nobody like where was I on Saturday? I went out for food Saturday and it's just like Key Street was just bananas. But like they weren't the places I would have been towards the end of my drinking. I would have been in the place where I wouldn't be found or down and back street drinking or something like that.
Yeah, so you're much more intentional and aware of your relationship with alcohol now, which is great. So just back when you started, like what would have kind of you said you got a real buzz out of it. Like what led you to keep coming back even though, you might have had hangovers, consequences, what was kind of the drive back
Mm.
then?
Um, Geez, hangovers were chronic, but like absolutely brutal. And then it got to a stage where I wasn't getting any hangovers, and it was just like, Jesus, this is almost just completely normal. But like when I first started drinking, it was kind of like here and there, maybe every so often. It was like with my gambling as well, because my gambling and drinking, it kind of like the story is very the same. It's like I started, let's say for example, gambling. I started off with a very small bet, but then it went boom, 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 boom. It was like really big bets. Now, obviously, really big bets into the amount of money I was earning. So if I was earning more money, I would have been like spending ridiculous amounts of money. But like the drinking was the same. Started off maybe 1 or 2 pints on a night out. Then when I was getting to 19, 20, getting that bit more freedom, left school, it was just like you'd start at 5 o'clock and you'd be home. And then there'd be sometimes I'd be gone for like 12 hours on end and just straight from work straight into town. So like it progresses. And I know now if I ever went back drinking, I wouldn't go back to just having one drink. I go back to what I was like when I finished, plus an extra probably 900%.
Yeah, there'd be no half measures. Yeah. So what was, the health, the fitness, nutrition, that kind of stuff? Like how important was that in your life when you started drinking? Was the drinking kind of replacing
Uh,
that or did it come before?
uh, yeah, no, 100% drinking came before health and fitness. I actually ended up in hospital, nothing to do with drinking, I think, on a St. Patrick's Day. And I think I was drinking at the time. Yeah, no, definitely was. I think it was about 2021. And you know that thing, what's it called? Bell's palsy, where half your face goes paralyzed. And I thought I was spiked, but it was obviously came out like this. And a junior doctor came up to me and basically it's like, you need to change your lifestyle or you will not be here. And he didn't say that, but what he was trying to tell me was I was going to die if I didn't change my lifestyle. So then I started going to the gym, but it was kind of like, I'll go off to drink for 4 weeks and then I'll eat really healthy. And then 4 weeks would pass, I'll go on a night out. But then like, it was just like, charcoal grill or no, don't get me wrong. I do like the odd charcoal grill still, but like, it was like charcoal grill Apache the next day or fry up and Apache. And then, so it was just like, it was like just this big massive, like, I was just going back and forth the whole time.
Yeah, you kind of were spinning your wheels. And were you drinking a lot in the lead up to that hospital visit? Was it particularly bad or was it just a random occurrence?
No, I was still in school. I think I was in fifth year. No, I was definitely still in school because I remember a few of the lads came in to see me. But no, 100% I was still drinking. I think it wasn't the worst because the worst was yet to come. But I was definitely heavily drinking. I started drinking when I was 18. I was an addict from about 19, 20, probably even before that. Because I was gambling before that. I was actually gambling before I started drinking.
So they go hand in hand then, yeah. And then
Yeah.
in terms of the fitness after that, what changed? And, How did you manage the fitness even though you were still drinking after?
I don't even know, to be honest. Like I used to go, you know, I actually remember this the year. It's actually just brought back some. I remember, Kevin Russell, and I remember he trained me. Oh, geez, I can't even remember how long ago it was, but he was home. I don't know. I think he might have been in the UK at the time. I can't remember where he was. And we organized this. We had it organized for weeks, this training session. And like his training, like I don't know if I ever trained with him, but he's just just it was insane at the time. But I went out the night before, and there's a few times there was a gym fundraiser. I was going out the night before. I was coming in stinking a drink, and like I was just doing it, but it was like more like as a self punishment. Going, if I go to the gym after a night out, I can then justify going out drinking again, or I can then justify going getting takeaways and stuff. And it was complete vicious circle.
So it's like now if you're going for the, staff party, you're thinking about yourself, you're asking yourself questions.
Mm.
Whereas before it's like the extreme. It's like, how can I do both to the extreme? I'll do the hardest workout and I'll do the most drinking.
Yeah, it's nuts when you think about how far. Sometimes I think, Jesus, what's the last almost 5 years been like? And then it's just like it goes so quick. Like it's just like I remember walking into treatment in when was that? 20 December 2018, Christmas time 2018. I remember walking in there and I was like, what in the name of God is going on here? And I remember my family coming to see me on Christmas Day and all this, and it was just like, geez, what is going on? And I remember planning. I remember I had this date in my head. I was like, if I can get to a year sober, I can then go have a drink. But that was like really, that was at the beginning of treatment. But then, like as the 5 weeks went on, it was completely like I can never. I was like, I'm not like obviously I'm not stupid. Like there is obviously always a chance that you could potentially go back drinking. I never want to go back drinking, but like I don't say I'm never ever going to go drinking again because you don't know what's going to happen when I after this call. What's going to happen when I step outside that front door?
Yeah, absolutely. It's too much of a risk. So the treatment itself then, you hear a little bit about it. There's a lot of addiction issues around in the world, especially, with the more things that people become addicted to nowadays. What was the whole treatment process like? Did you go in there? Did you seek it out first? What was it like?
Yeah, I remember I'm trying to think when it was. I had a massive relapse in the I was gambling for ages with it and hadn't told anyone that I had gone. So it happened basically very quickly for a 30-second snapshot. I had stopped gambling, and then when I stopped gambling for about a year, I was basically drinking really heavily. So I was basically swapped one thing for another. And then I had a massive relapse in the gambling, and kept that quiet and basically got found out, etc., etc. And then at this stage, I knew I was like, I need to do something because my life I'll either potentially take my own life or I will either just literally drink myself into and gamble myself into an oblivion. So I seeked help from a guy called Rushy McConville, ex-footballer, and he basically met him and I met him before and I basically texted him and I remember him saying to me he knew by the text I had sent him that I had gone back gambling. So then, and I remember bringing my dog out for a walk that night, and I would probably say I would be quite confident in saying that if I didn't bring the dog for the walk with me, I probably wouldn't have come back. So he rang me the next day, and I was like, "Come here." I was like, "What do I do?" And he was like, "Yeah, this is your choice. You can either do X thing, you can start going to meetings, or you can seek help first, go to a treatment center, and then go from there." So I ended up getting into the Rutland quite quick, within about 2 months, longest 2 months ever, because I was given the choice of you can go in for Christmas and do your 5 weeks, or you can wait till after Christmas and then do your 5 weeks. But I was trying to justify that if I wait till after Christmas, I can have one last blowout. I remember my family were like, no, if you wait until after Christmas, you're not basically. they didn't say this, but it was basically like, we're going to be watching you. Like, you can't do that. So I ended up going in for Christmas, whatever. And it was just like, I didn't know what was, I had heard, like, people had said to me, like people that I knew that had knew people that went into treatment, they were like, "Oh, it's going to be difficult, blah blah." But what I had was going to experience in the first week was nothing. What I remember sitting in a room, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And next thing, it was just like, I won't go into it, but it was like they wanted to know stuff and everything, and then it was all just like floods of tears and everything. But best 5 weeks ever. It was like most difficult, but the best thing ever. It hasn't all obviously hasn't been plain sailing since. Like, I haven't slipped or anything, but like, I still have my own mental battles, and am I good enough for this, or am I good enough to pursue that, or whatever? You know what I'm like.
Yeah, you're a very ambitious man. You have lots of ideas. A former client, I got to know you very well, and it was great to work with you back then. And yeah, so just talk a little. So it was a great 5 weeks. Just talk a little bit about like why was it so important for you? So meaningful, so difficult also at the same time. Just a little bit of details on the ups and downs.
I suppose there was like, you have to, I suppose, talk about, like, they talk about like maybe discussing your past, or discussing, nothing bad happened to me in the past or anything, but discussing like what it was like growing up, and what it was like when you were drinking, and what did you do when you were drinking? Did you hurt anyone? Did you do this? Did you do that? So there was, then we had the family days where like a family member would come up and talk about what it was like to live with Chris or whatever, or the people, what it was like to live with Billy or whatever. So it was very, it was just like, you heard honesty, and like sometimes you don't want to hear what it was like to live with Chris, which I never looked at it from that way. I always thought, oh, it's all about me. Ooh. Like, I'm the one with the problem. Ooh. But you don't know, like, I never thought of it, I, the effect that I had on other people. So that was probably one of my main takeaways from it, that, like, I know there's a statistic, I read it recent. I don't know if you know, it's like one in every, it's like, an addict in a family hurts up to, I can't remember exactly what it was, just say it was 7 people. But like, I never thought of it like that. I just thought, so I'm only hurting myself. I'm the one putting the stuff inside my body. Um, but like, I remember I got, I don't know, I can never think of it. I'm going to absolutely butcher this, but is it your liver or your kidney that can grow back?
Deliver.
Yeah, that's the one. So like, I remember like half of one of my livers was like basically disintegrating. Um, and I found that out after I came out of treatment, and then they did a test again, and it was like after I came out. I got a test done the first week and never got the results of it until I came out. So they did another one when I came out, which was like 5 weeks later, and it was like already starting to grow back. But like, if I had kept drinking, I probably realistically, I wouldn't be sitting here 100%. Like, there's no point lying about it. I probably wouldn't be. I'd either be drinking or I'd probably be dead.
But you're not. That's the key thing. So,
I know. Yeah.
and you're working out more
Thankfully.
now as well, which is huge. That's really good for your circulatory system, and that cirrhosis, that breakdown in the liver can be reversed. So, just go back a little bit to like, when you said you were 120 kilos. What was that like? As in, like, what was your sort of way to kind of cope with stress? What was the mental health like? And, activity and nutrition. What was all those things like at that time?
I suppose I was one of the addictions I went in for as well is, and I don't talk about it a lot, is overeating. Because like, I used eating when I felt nervous or anxious or stressed or angry or tired or lonely, whatever. It would be like, if I couldn't get my hand on a drink or couldn't get my hand on money to gamble, it would be that I'd eat until I could physically not put any more food in my mouth. So like, when I was 120 kilos, it was just like, I had no self-respect for my body. I had no self-respect for how I looked. I didn't care. Like, I remember it could be 30 degrees outside and I'd still want to wear a jacket and a hoodie because I didn't want people to see me around in a t-shirt. So that's the way, like, I had no, I just didn't care what I looked like. It was just, I remember, like, I'm only after getting another flashback of meeting you. And what was the name of that coffee shop we chatted. I think I was only very recently out of treatment. What was the name of the coffee shop?
There's so many in
The one
Galway, they're
beside the
not coming to
hospital
me.
there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The one on the corner opposite the hospital. Oh my God, sell pancakes.
I'm
Oh,
thinking of it as well too. Like it won't come to my mind, but I'm thinking of it. Yeah, yeah.
oh, that's gonna absolutely, but Mr. Waffle,
Mr. Waffle, that's the one.
that's
Yeah,
gonna,
I remember it now. I remember
but
it
I
now.
remember,
Yeah, yeah.
like, I probably was about maybe 110 kilos then. And I remember having the conversation. I was like, come on, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And it was just like, you say it, but I was like, Chris, like, you're not like, you need to just take it one step in front of another. And that's the way I kind of take, life. I try and take life at the minute. It's like, just put one step in front of the other. And like, if you want to pursue something, you will get there eventually. It's going to take hard work and it's going to take discipline and it's going to take being consistent at doing small things. But like, I can get so impatient. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I could have an idea and I want to happen. Like, I'm a qualified personal trainer and I wanted to have a very successful online business, but I wanted it now. Like, I wanted it now. And then like I don't do it. I don't do any personal trainer anymore or anything because I had kind of realized that I kind of had fallen out of the love of training. And I was like, my diet's not 100% all the time. Majority of the time, 80% of the time, it's good. But like at the time of was going through my own at the time, and when I was sober about 2 years ago, possibly maybe a year and a half ago, and I was like, I can't be telling people what to eat if I'm not eating well at the time as well. So I kind of just parked it, but I'm much happier that I parked it because I was putting unnecessary stress on myself that I got qualified I don't talk about this often really, but like I was putting stress on myself that because I'm a qualified personal trainer, that I can now only be a personal trainer. But like I'm enjoying training now because I don't have that unnecessary stress. I'm not saying I will never, ever, ever, ever be a personal trainer or I will not ever train people or whatever. But at the moment, it's not in my, what's in my life to do it because I'm enjoying my own training. Um, if I don't feel like training, I'll probably just push myself anyway. Um, like I went training today. I had a few things on. I had to go to the dentist that absolutely killed me. But those things that I kind of taking responsibility because if I wasn't sober, I wouldn't want to go to the dentist. Number one, and number two, I wouldn't have the money to go to the dentist.
Absolutely. Yeah, you would kind of avoid responsibility. So just something you mentioned is relapse. So I kind of, you know, I kind of feel as though there's like a stigma around it, like, oh, that's a bad thing, or it shouldn't happen. People should just decide, they should see the light, right?
Mm.
And that should be the end of it. But, if you think about it, how often do we try things and we get them first time, Very, very rarely, and brilliant if we can, but it's not always the way. So can you just talk a little bit about your experience of relapse? Maybe someone's listening, they have relapsed. What would you like them to kind of think about it? Because, you know, what's the old phrase? It's like fall down 7 times, get up 8. Like, we don't get things first time. So just a little bit on relapse and your experience of it.
Yeah, I suppose when I relapsed, I wasn't, I didn't think I had a drink problem at the time. So I was kind of like, I knew I had a severe gambling problem and I seeked help. This was going back maybe May 2016, I think it was. That time frame could be very wrong, but and I remember it took me like a year to relapse, but my whole life was like insane. Um, in between that, and it was just like at the time I was like, I am so useless. Like, how did I relapse? Like, I'm not allowed to do this anymore. Like, this shouldn't happen. Blah blah blah. And like the odd time, I'd still think now, oh, where would you be if you didn't relapse? But like, it's kind of like I learned so much about myself if I didn't, I can wholeheartedly say if I didn't relapse in gambling, I probably wouldn't have got sober from drinking. I probably would be still drinking and probably just coasting through life and probably still be 100 odd kilos. But like I know the weight doesn't like I kind of I watch what I eat now, and I'm kind of like I'm not as fixated as on the scale now as I probably would have been maybe a few years ago. It would have been like I did a photo on a fitness side of it. Like I did a photo shoot there. When was that? COVID. Yeah, it was COVID. And like after the photo shoot, I was so fixated on the scale. Like it was like I'm up point 0.4, I'm up point 0.6. It's like, but now it's kind of like I eat when I like. Obviously, I'm in a bit of a fat loss phase at the minute, so I'm obviously watching the scale weight. But I'm not like I know now like that if you eat like a bowl of cereal or something in the evening, you're obviously going to be fucking heavier in the evening, but heavy in the following day. But like they're going back to I went on a tangent there, going back on the relapse. It was like I learned so much about myself during that, like that wouldn't, my life wouldn't be what it is today if I hadn't had that relapse. I wouldn't have gone to treatment. I wouldn't have met people in treatment. I wouldn't have done the work that I had to do in treatment. I wouldn't have met the people I've met in the last 5 years. Wouldn't have potentially would have never met you potentially. So like there's things like that. Potentially would have never gotten to shape. Potentially would have never gone on holidays. Potentially would have never done a photo shoot. It's all these things that like you learn from your mistakes and like I know now that for me it's like if I was to say have a relapse that it's like to build up to it. What was I now can I'm in a place now mentally where I can if I'm feeling low or if I'm feeling or if say I had a relapse or whatever that like that's almost like the last piece of the puzzle. It's kind of like, well, what was I like 2 or 3 weeks leading up to it and try and identify the blind spots.
Yeah, it's kind of like a downstream effect. It's like a domino. So the
Mm,
relapse is kind of the last part of it.
100%. Like I'm thinking back on it now, it's kind of like when I did relapse for the whole 6 months a year before that was absolutely like insane, like eating lots of food, eating, not exercising, not wanted to see people, just like drinking a lot, like going on 2, 3 day benders, going like just absolutely insane.
Kind of reckless almost in a way.
Oh, 100%. Not almost, 100%.
So just you talked a little bit about mental health, and then something you talked about, going for that walk where you thought you might not make it back. So just kind of the depths of like the depression, maybe like even suicidal ideation, like what was going on at that time? And, how did you kind of come through that? Was that what kind of led up to the phone call? Because I don't know, does anyone find suicidal ideation easy to talk about? But it's good that you mentioned it.
Yeah, I actually didn't know what suicidal ideation was until about maybe I was sober 2 years ago, maybe. I went to see someone, I was experiencing it a lot. I've experienced it a few times. And I went to go see someone who said, yeah, this is it. It's kind of like a thing that you can kind of, when you experience it a few times, you can kind of acknowledge it and just go, right, this is happening. So like just accept it and feel what you have to feel. But at the time, it was just like, it was felt like everything was just crumbling. Like my whole mind was crumbling. Like my physical state was crumbling. Like I was like, obviously my insides were crumbling as well. Like, and I remember that walk, it was just like, I literally just like kept walking in circles around the block in Ankara, and it was just like pure insane. And the dog was probably like, where, are you? Like, it's like 10 o'clock at night. Like, what are you doing? I remember my mother rang me and like, I think I was gone for like 2 hours or something. And absolutely stormed out of the house. And, and that's when I texted Oshie McConville. So I kind of almost, that walk saved me. It kind of gave me that time to kind of think, well, now's the time I need help now. And I'd only recently started a new job and they were good to me as well because I was thinking it was about maybe 2 or 3 months in the job and like all this was going on and I just opened up. I went into work and spoke to my boss about it and she just was like, take whatever time you need. Just like your job's going to be here. We're not going to, which was, I was quite surprised because I think I was still on probation. I think, but yeah, and suicidal ideation. I don't think it's not talked about because I don't think people really understand. I suppose for me, I feel like it's kind of different to depression because like it's kind of like suicidal ideation can come and go, or you have to live with it or whatever. So like I definitely can have that. I experienced it no, not maybe about 6 months ago, and I just like I drive for a living at the minute, and like it was just like visualizing myself crashing into poles and all this, and I was just like, oh, what's going on? But I kind of just talked about it and stuff, and it eventually lifted, thankfully.
So even though it happens, the suicide ideation, it's not. It could feel like the end of the world, but it's not literally. Like you're able to cope with it now that you're sober and you can ask for help.
Yeah, basically just talking about it and voicing what's coming into your head, whether it's to my mother or it's to a friend or it's to a family member.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's very good that you're asking for help. And then it's interesting. We talked about GA at the start and then how passionate you are about it. And then when you were stuck, you reached out to someone in the GAA. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah. Never thought of it like that. Yeah, it's funny, like just like how passionate I am about Galway football. Like, uh, if anyone saw me in the terrace at matches, especially when they're playing Mayo, it's like this lad is not well in the head. Like, but I don't want that to change. I always don't want to be well in the head when Galway play. So, but like I lost interest in the GAA when I towards the end of my drinking and gambling because I all I wanted to do was go to matches and drink. So thankfully, that's well and truly back.
It survived. Brilliant. That's so good to hear. So the gambling then, that's something, it's, alcohol in Ireland, they kind of go hand in hand, right? But gambling, it's lesser kind of known and you hear
Mm.
adverts about, call this helpline and this kind of stuff. And you see so many adverts. You don't even have to go to the bookies anymore. You can do it from the comfort of your home, even at a game. So can you tell us a little bit about that and, how that started, the gambling and that whole experience?
Yeah, I suppose like I've never actually. Yeah, I suppose I was around gambling when I was younger, going into bookie shops and stuff, and I kind of liked. I was attracted to like the newspapers up on the wall, and they're like it was more so horse racing, so it was like in the paper, and obviously I don't know I don't know, do you remember it? But like the teletext, you could get the horse racing results on the teletext. So I was always attracted to that. And then when I got my first job, which was Dunn's in West Side, there was a bookies, Boyle Sports bookies there, and then there's the credit union the other, and then there's me lamped right in the middle. So like a gambler with a credit union one side and a bookies the other isn't really going to work. So it's it was kind of like it was a recipe for disaster. But like obviously, I regret things I did and took out loans and stuff and lying about where going to hospital appointments just to get money from them. And like there's obviously that guilt with regards to gambling, but you can hide. I noticed obviously from struggled with both addictions that you can hide gambling because there's no like obviously there's no you can't smell gambling or you can't like if I was standing up if I was say on a socializing on the weekend and like you can smell someone if they're having a pint, but you can't like smell someone obviously if they're gambling. So like I was able to hide that quite well. I was quite manipulative when I was gambling as well, like try and guilt trip people into giving me money or try and make people believe that I'm going to an appointment to give me money.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a different kind of beast then. And the secrecy, is that something that's common to alcohol and to gambling, to keep secrets or sort of, be sort of, not letting on what was going on, or is it different for both?
No, it's quite similar. Again, it's probably could be different for me because mine go hand in hand. But if I was to just look at the alcoholism, it's definitely like you could hide about whose party it was. You could hide who you were going out with, just so I could get out and sit in the dark pub and go away. No one be annoying me. But yeah, I think it's just quite. I think it's just a defect that people have when if they're an addict.
When you're caught in the addiction, it's not something you're proud of. You don't want to be telling people about it type of thing.
Mm.
So now then, you're sober. You're sober how long?
4.5 years.
So what differences have you noticed? You kind of mentioned there's still some challenges, but what's the difference in terms of, your workouts, nutrition, sleep, and just your life in general in terms of like mental health as well?
Suppose getting up in the mornings knowing that like, or who did I message on Facebook, or who did I borrow money off, or who did I meet last night? And that fear, like that, there's no fear. It's just like, you know what you did. That's a big thing for me. It's like waking up, say, on a Sunday morning, and like I kind of have my own coach at the minute was on to me for the last, say, year or so of building up morning routines and evening routines. Now, obviously, I work on the road, so like the nature of my work can be quite, as you have experienced firsthand, trying to organize this call for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But it's like obviously my morning routines usually on the weekend is I will get up and I'll go to a coffee shop in Ayr Square, when I'm in Galway, Cafe Nero there beside the Skeff, and just sitting there and just having an Americano and just headphones in, listening to something. And it's just like me doing that on a Sunday morning. I would have been the person like in Ayr Square trying to get money to get a bus home or walking home. Or I remember I met I think I met a teacher of mine or something when I was out drinking, and just like the following morning after a nice drink, and just the embarrassment of not knowing like where you were or who you were with, or but like that's massive. Just like going to bed knowing that you haven't done anything bad, or waking up on a Sunday morning feeling fresh, no hangover, going to the gym on a Sunday morning, like not like my training's not always perfect, but like it is, it's there. It's kind of like it's just built into me, into my routine. Like it's not like I went to the gym today for about, I think it was about 45 minutes to an hour, and like that, like I knew I was going to be there. Like I was off today, so I knew I was going to be going to the gym. Tomorrow I'm on the road, so like I have planned to go to the gym. If I don't make it, fine. But if I don't make it, I will make sure I'm there the following morning, first thing in the morning.
So you can almost rely on yourself more or trust yourself more because you're not shooting yourself in the foot.
Oh yeah, it's just like I couldn't trust myself. I could not trust myself when I was drinking and gambling. You wouldn't know, I wouldn't know what would come out of my mouth, basically. Could say or do anything.
And now that fear is removed, which is huge. And you talked,
Majority of the time. I still have a bit of fear, but that's just general fear, not fear around drinking or anything.
absolutely, yeah, it's a case of progress, not perfection. So you said then as well, you did a photo shoot. So it's kind of a complete like 180. You've gone from feeling like your insides were crumbling to, and it's not all about how you look as well, right? Internally, you kind of talked about that as well, but
Mm.
just talk a little bit about like how you were able to get the point of doing like a photo shoot and the internal change as well that happened.
Yeah, I suppose photo shoot was an experience and a half, and might do another one. Probably am going to end up doing another one in this quarter. Um, but um, that was just like from being extremely overweight to be able to have. It wasn't more so like getting absolutely shredded. It was more so to have the confidence to step in front of the camera with no t-shirt on, because like that's like just it wouldn't have even been in my vocabulary, yeah, like 4 or 5 years ago. I did that during that photo shoot during COVID as well, so it was something kind of just to work towards because I wasn't working. I was basically just walking the prom every day, having a cup of coffee. Luckily enough, actually, where I'm sitting now, down below me was like a shed and like built it into like a home gym. So like it was like basically just like lights off, headphones in. Well, we had a speaker, I'd say, whenever, like, obviously, like, there'd be a few times the guards would drive past, like, and you turn off the music because obviously we weren't supposed to be training. But, because I was training with someone at the time, because he lived around the corner. But, like, just it was more so that what stood out for me was having the confidence to step in front of a camera or to post my photos on social media. And I can still have, that's a bit of fear I have. I kind of like to document my journey on my own social media. But like still having the fear, oh, am I good enough or am I lean enough or sure you don't even look that great. But I think that's just what the way social media has gone in general. Like I don't think that's just because I'm in recovery. I think that's just like the way like people are just comparing themselves to someone that's been training 25 years and who's on anabolics.
Absolutely, yeah. Sure. We're starting off talking about how your low was, how low that was. There was no regard for, the fitness, the nutrition, your health at all. And now you're talking about doing a photo shoot and it's just a world of difference. So it's huge. And yeah, social media is so toxic for comparing ourselves to other people and taking away from our own achievement, which we really can be proud of.
Mm,
So do
100%.
you have any kind of like challenges from before where, trying to stay on top of your nutrition, trying to stay on top of your sleep, your training, your health in general? Do you have any of those challenges that continue with you today? Like how much easier is it now compared to in the past?
It's definitely much easier because like I suppose my week was always when I was drinking and gambling, my week was always based on if I can survive Monday to Friday until I get paid, I can then just go drinking and go press the fucking button. Excuse the language. Don't know where we're allowed to swear on this podcast, but I just did. Um, but like now it's just like obviously it's working. I am working. I'm not going to go into it, but I am working towards something that probably wouldn't have been able to have happened if I'm kind of just doing it like in the background because sometimes one of my defects is I will want to tell everyone everything about what I'm doing. And then like if something happens or something changes, then I feel really bad. So I'm not even going to go into it. So but like nutrition is much better than it was. It's all about that 1% better each day. Like it's not always perfect. Like it's obviously I was like obviously I'm doing a bit of a fat loss phase and I was able to kind of right if I reduce calories, say whatever it is, Monday to Friday, I went to an Asian tapas place for dinner on Saturday, completely guilt free. Like no like didn't wasn't trying to like then wake up the following day and starve myself. Galway were playing yesterday, won the kind of final, went for Supermax in the evening, whatever. Um but like that's just but then I know I now have the discipline where I'm like, right, that's whatever is done is done. I enjoyed my day. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the time I had with the people. But now it's kind of like I also enjoy head down, just hustling, whichever way you want to describe it. Obviously nutrition, like I kind of have to, like my job is kind of like you're on the road, and so sometimes it could just be like picking up maybe a chicken Caesar salad bowl, or sometimes it can be you can be really caught for time and you just have to have breakfast in the morning and maybe just grab like a protein bar for as a snack to keep you going until you can have a proper meal. So it's kind of like it is what it is. Like obviously, what saves me is those fit foods, nutrition wise, just like the microwave dinners because they're you know what calories, just MyFitnessPal, scan it, boom. Um, and that's kind of like something I probably would have. Say sometimes I can come home and I'll be like, oh, I get a takeaway, and then I'm like. But why would you get a takeaway? Like, if you want it, go get it. But like, usually the better option is I'm not really like a cook. No, there's not. I'm not really a cook. I am not a cook. So like, I'll just go down to Aldi a little or whatever and get the microwave dinner, a bit of Greek yogurt, whatever. Like that's just simple. Um, but like that's just nutrition wise, training wise, it's kind of like sometimes I'm like, if I'm not enjoying a training session, it's kind of like I beat myself up, but it'd be like, just do it. And if you don't, I kind of have a rule in my own head. If I don't want to go to the gym, I'll go anyway. And it's like, commit to 2 exercises, your prescribed sets for the exercises. And I get 99% of the time, I will want to continue the workout. I won't just want to walk out. But if I go to the gym and I sit down on it, like I'm working for Coca-Cola at the minute, and obviously Monster is the Coca-Cola product, so I do tend to have a can of Monster. So like having the can of Monster, and sometimes in my head I'd be like, oh, I might just walk out. And then it's just like, no, just go in. You're here now, or I'm sitting outside the gym. It's like, you're basically here. Do 2 exercises. And if I only do 2 exercises, that's fine. But I will definitely feel better than having walked out of the gym. So like all these things, none of them are perfect. And they're probably I never want anything to be perfect because I always want to be improving.
That's a great message. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. It sounds like your self-belief has grown a lot as well, where before you felt like things were crumbling. Now it's, you're thinking of the future. You've got your goals, everything you're talking about has totally changed.
Yeah. It's mad when you think about it because like, I still don't really know what I want to do, but like, I don't beat myself up for that. Like I could be someone that will want to just do different things all the time. And I am potentially, I want to get into say the statistics side of the GAA. I do it for a club at the minute. So I'm planning on doing maybe a course in that in the end of the year in June up in Belfast. So because I have an opportunity coming up. So next year's intercounty season. So that's interesting. But that's like I wouldn't have that opportunity if I was still drinking because I had absolutely no interest. So yeah, it's not just the physical positive things that happen when I stopped drinking, but it's also like career wise. And I remember my own coach. He said it to me about six. I met him for the first time in person, and he said something. I can't remember what the way he said it, but it was like when you're having conversations with people, you never know what that conversation is going to bring down the line. And there is conversations I've had with numerous people over the last 2-3 months and then they'd be like, "Would you be interested in this if this was to come up in 3 or 4 months' time?" That I would never have dreamt in my life of happening.
100%. That's so true. You don't know what can happen, especially when you get sober. You get out of your own way. So, Chris,
yeah,
brilliant to chat to you. This has been a great episode. Any kind of final message you want to leave people with, or anything you want to finish up with?
No, there isn't. But like, I suppose for me, giving up a bit, just looking for help, like was massive for me. And I know, particularly, people mightn't agree with this, but this is just my own personal opinion. Particularly, I think men in Ireland sometimes struggle to look for help or say that they're struggling. I can sometimes do it as well, but like I don't like for years I just had this like I was crumbling inside mentally, but it was just like, geez, Chris always looks happy. Yeah. And then it was like, well, Chris is always happy because he's always drinking. So like just looking for help, taking that first step is always massive, whether it's if it's you want to give up drinking or you want to improve your physical health or you want to get into better physical condition, look for someone that has the experience in whether it's looking for an online coach like yourself or whatnot to improve that for you and work with them. That's always, you can look at looking for help in a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, the help is there if you want. Chris, thanks very much.
100%.
Great speaking to you.